Just another peaceful day, perfect for some reading. Greetings, lads and lasses. This is Jogaila, Grand Duke of Lithuania, and husband to 4 different wives. You might be wondering how he got himself into this situation. Well, buckle up, buckaroos. This is the tale of how Lithuania rose to power without losing a single unit. Completing a deathless run for Age of Empires is somewhat different to other RTSs. Notably, we're given the option to delete our units and buildings in Age of Empires games. The interesting thing about this mechanic is that units and buildings that were deleted do not count as deaths in the post-game summary screen, meaning that theoretically, if any of my units or buildings get too close to dying, I could simply delete them and you guys wouldn't know any better. Now, because of their relatively high HP, buildings are easy to delete before they're destroyed. On the other hand, deleting near-death units, especially during a battle, is actually quite bothersome and difficult. Because of this, I am only going to track the unit deaths in this run and not building deaths. Despite relaxing the rules a bit, this challenge was still substantially harder than I anticipated. Truly, the brutality of medieval battles are a different kind of beast to behold. Next time your great-great-great-grandparents tell you that they had it tough back then, believe them. With that being said, let us dive into the first mission of the Lithuanian campaign.
You want to know how I ended up here, foreigner? You dare ask such a question, as if we were equals. Very well. I will tell you the story, my companion in misfortune. It began when some chosen ones felt called on to bring the light to Lithuania. They named themselves the Teutonic Order, and under the banner of the cross they brought only death and perdition. They called themselves holy warriors, but they were nothing more than robber knights. They razed our strongholds and torched our villages. Lithuania was not easily cowed. Algirdas and Kestutis refused to stand idly by as their beloved homeland fell to the cross.
In order to repel the Teutonic Order hell-bent on subjugating Lithuania, we must lead the 2 brothers, Algirdas and Kestutis, on a campaign to dethrone their incompetent brother Janutis and reunite the country. We start the scenario with a small settlement in the north, with our ally Kestutis controlling a base in the west. Our 2 primary goals are to defeat Janutis and seize Vilnius, Lithuania's capital city, and defeat Naramantas, who supports Janutis from his base in the south. The Teutons are also present in the scenario, but their outposts are situated in the west, beyond Kestutis' walls, meaning that we don't have to worry about them yet. We must first boom and establish a solid defense against Janutis and Naramantas' attack waves. Throughout this entire campaign, 3 things are invariably going to be the backbone of our every strategy: castles, cavalry, and monks. Out of all the combat units available to us, the Knightline and the Lithuanian Lightus are the only units sturdy enough to not immediately crumble in any head-on engagements. While the Lithuanians do have a solid archery range tech tree, the almost guaranteed appearance of enemy skirmishers and archers means that employing anything other than cavalry will dramatically ramp up our micro difficulties. Almost all units in AOE2 do not have the ability to self-heal, meaning that we will have to rely on monks created from monasteries to heal our cavalry. As a wise man once said, behind every successful man stands a monk. Still, cavalry are melee units after all, making them susceptible to kiting, so we can't rely solely on knights for defense and attack. This brings us to the castle, the toughest defense structure available to us. This building is highly resilient against any non-siege units, and will be the primary way through which we will defend most enemy attacks in this run. Our first important task is to wall up and construct castles at this choke point to defend against enemy attacks. Janutis will field many units in his attacks, the deadliest being the trebuchet, a siege unit capable of outranging the castle. When we encounter these things, the best bet is to send a flanking knight group to destroy them before they can get any shots off. Naramantas will also send his own attack waves, though he doesn't field any trebuchets and instead deploys battering rams, which are much less threatening due to them being melee. On their own, these attack waves are minor and are easily manageable. But if you get unlucky, these 2 opponents might send their attack waves at the same time. When this happens, we can send Algirdas to distract one of the armies while we handle the other one.
Hey, listen, I'll beat your goddamn ass, you son of a bitch!
Do you have any idea how fast I am?
Neutral villages are scattered throughout the countryside, and were granted the option to construct either monasteries or pagan shrines in each of them to gain their support. So I of course opted to let the people keep their pagan faith.
Sure that the residents of this settlement could keep their ancient beliefs. In gratitude, they will send soldiers to assist us in battle.
Construct a few pagan shrines in between attack waves, and the villagers will join our side and start producing troops. To defeat Yanutis, all we need to do is to destroy the wonder situated in the middle of Vilnius. Since we gain control of the rest of the buildings after capturing Vilnius, we should try to avoid destroying as many structures as possible. Because we don't have access to the trebuchet yet, we can rely on the battering rams constructed by the local militias to siege Vilnius. Once we breach the gates and destroy the wonder, we successfully conquer Vilnius and defeat Yanutis.
Flee! For the throne is lost!
Now we move on to Naramantas. Ideally, we'd go with the same strategy, but Naramantas has a castle, which means we need stronger siege weaponry to defeat him. Luckily, the nearby Teutonic outposts contain blueprints for trebuchets, and at this point of the game, their defense forces are no match for us. So we raid the Teutons and steal their blueprints.
Your engineers deciphered the plans that we had captured. We can now construct powerful catapults.
With the trebuchets at our disposal, we can now easily destroy the castle and defeat Naramantas to finish the scenario.
I cannot believe it! My fortress destroyed! My army smashed!
Hotel Trivago.
After the Saracens ousted them from their holy land and stripped away their Middle Eastern estates, these crusaders now planted their iron heels on our backs to sate their lust for blood and plunder. When Algirdas was forced to deal with the defiant city-states of Ruthenia, the opportunistic Teutons saw a chance to invade our homeland yet again. They were not expecting to face Kestutis, who had stayed behind to hold the heartland. But Kestutis was expecting them.
While Algirdas is busy subjugating the Ruthenian rebels, the opportunistic Teutonic Order marches against us once more. Our objective is to defeat both the Ruthenians and the Teutons. There are 2 Ruthenian cities in the area. To the east lies Bryansk, whose troops are badly equipped compared to us, and fields relatively weak defenses. The other city, Kursk, is situated directly south of Algirdas and is much more powerful, not only boasting 3 castles, but also fielding powerful siege weapons and boyars in their attack waves. There are 3 monasteries in each city. Destroying all 3 monasteries will cause the city to surrender and join our side. On the other hand, the Teutonic Order has built 3 castles in the area, all of which are behind layers of enemy fortifications. To defeat the Teutons, we must destroy 2 out of the 3 castles. This scenario is very similar in structure to the previous one, with a few key differences. Firstly, both Kestutis and Algirdas' camps are under our direct control, meaning that we will have to pay attention to the defense of both sides, sometimes requiring us to take on 2 attack waves at once. Secondly, a group of Tatar refugees escaping the Golden Horde is in the area. Should we decide to ally with them, they will set up a base of their own in the area and aid us in our attacks. The objective of destroying monasteries is much easier than castles, so we will focus on subjugating the Ruthenians before challenging the Teutons. First, we must set up a solid defense on both fronts, concentrate on stone collection early, and quickly construct castles followed by palisade walls. The first attack wave comes from Algirdas' side. The poorly equipped blue units do not pose much of a threat to us. Purple, on the other hand, fields both rams and trebuchets, so sniping them with cavalry while repairing the castles with villagers is crucial. Soon after, the Teutons would do the same, attacking with cavaliers, crossbowmen, and trebuchets.
I'm fast as fuck, boy!
We need both the Knight and the Lightest against the Teutons, as the Knight's higher pierce armor allows them to tank more arrows from crossbowmen when sniping trebuchets, and the Lightest's ability to ignore enemy armor means that they fare much better against the Teutonic unit's high melee armors. After some time has passed, the Tatar refugees we allied with earlier will grant us the ability to recruit their unique unit Kipchaks for free from our castles.
Some Tatar Kipchak horse archers have gathered in our castle and are eager to join us in battle.
Each castle we construct will allow us to recruit 15 Kipchaks for free. and the Kipchak's fast attack animation and ability to fire multiple arrows in one attack makes them a valuable asset to our unit composition. Once we're able to pump out a few more castles, we can recruit a large number of Kipchaks for free and begin marching towards the Ruthenian cities. Bryansk is the easiest target. 2 of their 3 monasteries are located outside of their city walls, and even the one inside can be easily destroyed using trebuchets.
We survived the Mongol invasions and patiently endured the Tatar Yoke for decades. You Lithuanians do not scare us.
12 seconds later.
Alas, will our suffering never end? Continuing to resist is futile. We must submit to Algirdas and Kestutis.
Once Bryansk surrenders, snatch up the relics and store them inside our own monasteries to grant ourselves passive gold generation and bonus cavalry damage. Kursk is much more tricky. Once we get close to their walls, they will start producing an endless wave of units to defend the city. We will have to construct several forward castles to fight against the tide while slowly demolishing enemy defenses and production buildings, eventually slowing down the enemy enough to get our trebuchets in range of all their monasteries.
We admit defeat. Will you accept our surrender, Lithuanians? We will serve you now.
Once both Ruthenian cities have fallen, we turn our attention to the Teutons, break through this line of fortifications in conjunction with our allies, and march upon this castle first.
Forward march! Let us give these unruly pagans a good drubbing.
I'm joking! Stop! There's a break! Stop!
Be careful here though. Once we land a hit on the castle, it will activate a trigger where the Teutons contact their brethren, the Livonian Order, to launch a counterattack directly behind Algirdas' main camp.
The Lithuanians dare to launch a counterattack? Send a rider to our brethren of the Livonian Order and request their support against this heathen rebel.
Construct a few castles ahead of time and loop around the back with the Kipchaks to defend against attack. After this is done, the only thing we need to do is to destroy the exposed Teutonic castle southwest of Kestutis and finish the scenario.
2 of our fortresses have fallen to the pagans. Antichrist himself. They have no choice but to retreat to Prussia. For now.
With the Crusaders licking their wounds, their unprecedented loyalty to one another kept the peace, allowing the brothers to focus on expanding their realm. To the southeast of Lithuania lay the city-states of the former Rus. With the horde weakened by internal disputes, many of the oppressed cities welcomed the Lithuanians as liberators. But some were not so eager to simply replace one overlord with another. The inhabitants of the newly independent city of Kiev saw the Lithuanians as the greater threat and sought an alliance with their former Tatar masters. A move that Algirdas and Kestutis would not leave unanswered.
With the Teutons on the retreat, the subjugation of the Rus continues. Our first objective is to lead our initial task force to the Blue City-State and capture it by killing all of their military units. But before that, we have to first get to the city, which means tackling the many patrols of the Golden Horde scattered throughout the map. These patrols mostly consist of Mangudais and light cavalry. In particular, the Mangudai's status as a cavalry archer unit means that the AI can use it to kite our units very efficiently. As such, we will have to leave behind almost half of our starting forces due to their susceptibility to ranged attacks. Instead of heading directly south, move a bit east and cross this river guarded by only a handful of Mangudais instead. To conserve the HP of our Lacii for later fights, we use Algirdas to soak up the shots here while our crossbowmen pump a buttload of arrows into them.
Hit me. You can't.
What the fuck, bro?
Afterwards, follow a specific path carefully downwards so as not to attract any light cavalry patrols and come upon the walls of Blue City. The majority of the garrison is made up of men-at-arms and pikemen, easily dispatchable by our archers, and our Lacii can handle the small pockets of enemy crossbowmen with ease. There is also a mangonel in the center of the city, but a bit of archer micro should be able to take it down without losses. Once we clear the garrison, the city will fall under our control, and the second phase of the mission begins, where we must take down all 3 major divisions of the Golden Horde: the Bulgars, who train cavalry archers, Conics, and knights; the Kipchaks, whose composition consists of light cavalry, Kipchaks, and Rams; and the Tatars, who field cavalry archers, steppe lancers, keshiks, and trebuchets. All three of them can amass powerful attack waves, including several siege weapons, forcing us to go on the defensive early on in the scenario as we scramble to build up a solid economy and defense setup. It gets worse though. In this scenario, we're not allowed to recruit our own villagers. Instead, Kestutis, who has his own camp up in the north, will periodically send villagers along with resources to us. This means that we will be short-staffed for the early portions of the game. Use all our initial villagers to gather this stone pile inside our city immediately and use it to construct several castles near the southern walls, as the Bulgar horde will launch their first attack in the south, which is soon followed by the Tatar horde's attack. Use the first set of villagers given by Kestutis to wall up all but one entrance to his base and help him defend. While Kestutis is not completely defenseless, his army will be easily crushed by enemy attacks in the late game. Worry not though, for we can construct some castles here later to further safeguard a consistent stream of resource tributes from him. After defending against the initial attack wave, we will be notified of the presence of 3 Golden Horde leaders on the field, each of them commanding one of the 3 divisions. If we eliminate the leaders, it will severely weaken their armies respectively. To exploit this mechanic, we send out a couple villagers and some knights to construct a castle and siege workshop near the Tatar Horde commander's position, who is the most exposed out of the 3. Because the scenario is designed with the intent to allow Kestutis to continuously send us resources, his camp is surrounded by an overwhelming abundance of resources, particularly stone and gold. We could therefore use the villagers given to us by Kestutis to collect these resource piles ourselves, giving us access to a large quantity of gold and stone early on, allowing us to be aggressive with our forward castles in the early game. Construct some bombard cannons to demolish the defensive buildings in the area, then eliminate the commander with our knights.
Demetrius is dead! Without their prince, the Tatar division of the Golden Horde will be a mere shadow of its former self.
This little maneuver of ours will cost a lot of resources, but it will also neuter the Tatar Horde's army as they can now no longer construct trebuchets and heavy cavalry archers, easing the pressure on our defensive efforts. The other 2 commanders are situated moderately deep inside enemy territories, so we will eliminate them later. We first destroy the weakened Tatar Horde's base as they are the closest to us. A combination of monks, knights, bombards, and forward castles should do the trick. Then we move on to the Kipchak Horde. Unlike the previous scenario, we're unable to recruit Kipchaks from our castles, so we will instead acquire some through the power of persuasion.
Look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
Sure, why not?
Lure enemy Kipchaks in with knights and use a squad of monks to completely shatter the enemy's entire moral compasses and recondition them into psychopathic killers hell-bent on the destruction of their former comrades mere moments ago. Such is the power of faith. The Kipchaks come out relentlessly, so we need some forward castles to cover our monks as we assemble our own Kipchak squad. Once that is done, we will gain a squad of powerful cavalry archers that dramatically increase the versatility of our composition. This also means that there is no reason to keep the Kipchak horde alive anymore, so we eliminate the Kipchak commander and slowly clean its base up. With 2 of the 3 hordes defeated, the Bulgars alone no longer pose any semblance of threat towards us. Moving with our knights, monks, and Kipchaks, backed up by forward castles, bombards, and trebuchets, and claim total victory over the Golden Horde.
How on earth did the Lithuanians overcome our invincible horse archers?
Hit me, hit me, hit me. You can't.
As the Golden Horde plunged towards a dishonorable end, the Rus principalities of Moscow and Tver emerged as the primary beneficiaries of its demise. The Grand Duchy of Moscow was ruled by a prince named Dmitri, who had succeeded in taking on the Khan of the Golden Horde through sly politics. Algirdas's recent territorial gains made him and Dmitri close neighbors. When Prince Mikhail of Tver sought Lithuanian aid against his Muscovite rivals, Algirdas found his long-awaited pretext.
Victory after victory, the conquering of the Rus seems to never cease, as Algirdas and Kestutis have once again raised their weapons, this time toward Dmitri, Prince of the Grand Duchy of Moscow. This mission is the easiest in this entire Lithuanian campaign by a long shot, and you will soon see why. Just like the last mission, we're given a small task force at the beginning. The first objective is to rescue our ally Prince Mikhail of Tver. crush the Muscovite cavaliers with our Lacii, and utilize the high pierce armor of knights to eliminate enemy crossbowmen. After the battle concludes, we're given a set of villagers and must establish our own base of operation. From here on, our primary objective will be the destruction of all 6 Muscovite food storehouses. Things are a bit more complicated than that though. To start, Muscovites are not strictly defensive, and will send deadly attack waves against us after the first 15 minutes pass, including the bothersome trebuchets as always. Additionally, a division of the Golden Horde is also present in the area, and will actively harass our flank. There are 2 main ways to thwart the Golden Horde. First, there is the city of Vladimir, which is situated directly east of us. They will initially remain neutral in this conflict, and will only change side when either of us or the enemies capture their palace building. If we can hold their palace, the people of Vladimir will be of great help in securing our flank. Unfortunately, directly walling off the palace is impossible by design, though the interior access to the palace can be walled, and we can still drop a castle near the front entrance to secure the palace. Secondly, the city of Ryazan is located southwest of our position. The city's walls are badly damaged from Golden Horde raids. After a certain amount of time has passed in the scenario, the Golden Horde will launch a massive attack and destroy the city. If we patch up the holes in their walls before that happens though, Ryazan will endure the attack and become a valuable ally against the Golden Horde. As long as we complete these 2 side objectives, we will only need to worry about the Muscovites. What's even better is that we can cheese this mission by abusing the terrain. For some odd reason in this scenario, Red will not construct additional trebuchets if they have less than 1 castle remaining. Conveniently, a river which we have access to runs through the city of Moscow. We can use this river to destroy castles placed near it by building a dock and 3 cannon galleons. If we do this fast enough, we can destroy 2 out of the 3 castles in Moscow, thus rendering them unable to produce additional trebuchets before they even get to send a single attack wave, meaning that we don't have to deal with the bothersome trebuchets even once while defending. A huge reassurance for us, as we can now safely boom our economy and produce an army without pressure. The rest is pretty much routine at this point. Push forward with a Knight-Monk combo and drop forward castles as we push. This time though, it's made even easier by the presence of Mikhail's troops, which we can use as frontline fodders for our trebuchets, and just like that, we complete the scenario without a single loss.
So, you can fight, unleash demons. Do not get excited too soon, Lithuanians. I still control the impregnable Kremlin fortress.
The combined forces of Algirdas and Kestutis managed twice to penetrate into the heart of Moscow. But the walls of the Kremlin brought their advance to a halt each time. The war dragged on for years. Neither the Lithuanians nor the Golden Horde, which intervened late in the war, could force a decisive victory. In the end, the only remaining option was to sign a treaty that allowed all parties to return home without losing face. Keeping this peace was Algirdas's last great feat. We burned his corpse according to the old custom, on a ceremonial pyre with 20 of his beloved horses and many of his favorite belongings. My father had created an empire stretching from the Baltic Sea in the north to the Black Sea in the south. And I, Jogaila, would be his heir. My father chose me as his successor. I was to rule with Kestutis the way that he had. But Kestutis no longer wanted to share his power. Like all weak rulers, he fears the younger generation. The chains on my hands prove that. But I will not be kept from my rightful inheritance. If any sense remained in that aging mind of his, he would know that my father's heart, that boisterous heart of a wild predator, also beats in my chest. And as befits the leader of a pack, I have loyal followers who will not let me rot forever in this dungeon.
The final scenario of the Lithuanian campaign starts with a small army, which must carry out the task of escorting a ransom cart to Kestutis' castle to rescue Jogaila. The path leading towards Kestutis is infested with robber bands looking to pick a fight. All possible routes are covered by their patrols. so there is no way out but to fight through them. Unit countering is essential here to make it out alive. Use swordsmen and hand cannoneers to eliminate enemy infantry and rush down the crossbowmen and light cavalry with our knights. Follow the road until we reach Kestutis' base. Deliver the ransom card and bring Jogaila out quickly before Kestutis turns hostile against us.
You should be grateful to have such loyal followers, Jogaila. Now get out of my castle and never be seen here again. You have already brought more than enough shame on our...
Oh, you senile fool.
From here, we're given the option to pick one of 2 villages nearby to settle at, Trakai to the west and Kreva to the east. We will establish a foothold at Kreva, and I will explain why in just a bit. After arriving at Kreva, we will gain control of the village. Immediately begin gathering resources with focus on stone collection. Wall off our base, leaving only 1 choke point to funnel enemies through. Time is of the essence here. As soon as we take control of Kreva, Vytautas, Kestutis' son, will seize Trakai for himself, and the father-son duo will begin building up powerful attack waves against us. This is one of the reasons why we opted for Kreva, as its resource piles are hidden behind the front line instead of being exposed in the open, and the tree lines provide a solid cover that is easy to wall off. The enemy attack waves can arrive as early as 7 minutes after settling. Both Vytautas and Kestutis pilot the Lithuanian civilization just like us, meaning that they will also train Laicii against us. Their unique ability to ignore enemy armor when attacking means that melee combat is now even more dangerous than before. Luckily, the first waves of Vytautas and Kestutis only consist of cavalry units, easily defended by castles. I decided to add a layer of palisade walls at the front of the castles as I didn't have enough resources to research murder holes before the enemy attacked. It also helps reduce the potential DPS enemy melee units can output on our castles. We can disconnect the attack timings of Vytautas and Kestutis by sending Jogaila, who has inherited his father's swiftness, to distract Vytautas' attack wave while we handle the other one. A single optional objective is present in this scenario. We're asked to either ally with the Lithuanian nobles or the Teutonic Order. If we side with the Lithuanian nobles, we have to rescue a group of prisoners from the heavily fortified Teuton camp to earn their support. On the other hand, if we side with the Teutonic Order, we will have to destroy 3 pagan shrines deep within Lithuanian territory. The pagan shrines are defended by only a handful of cavalry, while siege weapons are required to free the prisoners in the Teuton camp. As such, I opted to align with the Teutonic Order, also because that's what Jogaila actually did in history. Note that if we were to decide to settle in Trakai, we would have had to open a new battlefront regardless of which side we chose. Just another reason why Kreva is the better choice, and the real Jogaila agrees. Given that we're able to reach Imperial Age in this scenario, we will stay on the defensive until we fully research and train a powerful army of our own. As time passes, enemy attacks will get stronger and include more siege weaponry. On top of sending knights to flank the enemy, we will have to partake in the Treb War by assembling our own squad of counter-attacking trebuchets. Once the setup is complete, we begin our offensive, construct a series of docks along the northern river to ferry our army up north until we reach an unguarded bridge that leads into the Lithuanian Duke's territory. Plop down a few castles to provide cover for our cavalry, and demolish Vytautas' monastery nearby and steal his relics to boost our cavalry's attack damage. Some of Vytautas' forces will be drawn toward this area, so exercise caution as we carry out the plan. To ease the pressure on our defenses, we first take out Vytautas, which is easier than you might think, as all we have to do is to destroy his one and only castle in the area. Beside the bridge is a small path that leads directly to the back of the castle. Send in the group of bombard cannons covered by knights and finish off Vytautas without breaking a sweat. Then, we turn our attention towards purple. Extreme care is needed as the enemy will send out lots of Laicii to defend their shrines. Luckily, we only need to destroy 2 of the 3 shrines with our cavalry, as we can snipe the most protected one with the cannon galley. With this, the Teutonic Order will finally cooperate with us, not only sending their own attack waves against Kestutis, but also periodically providing us with Crusader Knights. These units have lower HP than our knights, but have much higher melee and pierce armor. Unfortunately, armor is useless against Laicii, meaning that these Crusader Knights are basically useless to us.
What is my purpose?
You are useless.
Oh my god.
Finally, we face off against Kestutis. He does not go down without a fight though, as he fields an impressive defense with a constant stream of counter-attacking forces on top of trebuchets. Instead of cutting my way through the enemy battle line, I constructed an elaborate castle maze to fend off the counterattacks as I constructed docks and cannon galleons to cross the river. Wall off a section on the other side of the river as we deploy our trebuchets and castles, clear the area, and use our trebs to dispose of Kestutis safely. He will try to dodge the projectiles, but we can use the attack ground option instead, and he will remain relatively still. And just like that, we bring this war to an end.
I am undone by my own nephew. I wish that I had put you away when I still could, Yukaila. He who has relatives like this truly no longer needs enemies.
We have come a long way, foreigner. We met as strangers in a filthy dungeon, and now we stand together in the throne room of Vilnius. Wolves still surround Lithuania, enemies that long for our downfall. But I shall not stray from the path down which I have started. Perhaps we will meet again, foreigner, if your travels ever bring you back here. But even if we do not, I have the feeling that this will not be the last time that you hear the name Jogaila, Grand Duke of Lithuania.
Hello lads, we meet again. The comments and support from you guys have been amazing thus far, and I hope to live up to your expectations in the future. As always, stay tuned, and thanks for watching till the end.